understand how dark it is, how far down the line we are, how late it is?
Mumbai terrorist was U.S. agent. Now, I saw this morning, and then I saw the link to the affidavit where it talks about Headley, who was this son of a U.S. diplomat, classic spy kids. We knew that the so-called shooters had PCP, LSD at levels that would kill some people in their bodies. On the videos, they're just whacked out of their mind, classic mind control. We knew the U.S. government was jamming signals. I mean, this came out. Here's our articles from over a year ago, December 7, 2008. Arrests provides more evidence. India, Israel, and U.S. behind Mumbai attacks. It goes through the head of Indian intelligence who was killed that day, days before, saying these are staged attacks coming. He was there to try to stop it. Mumbai terrorists were aided by Indian authorities. We have links to mainstream news and all these articles. Media forced to backtrack on al-Qaeda link to Mumbai attacks. Mumbai attacks blamed on al-Qaeda as pretext for U.S. military response in Pakistan. So, and this came out in major papers in Europe a year and a half ago. But now it is a huge firestorm in Europe and in Asia and in the subcontinent because imagine hotels, shopping malls, people running around, just waving machine guns and hand grenades, killing people, flipped out of their minds on psychotropic drugs. We now go to Alex Newman to break down these latest developments. Thanks for coming on with us.
What's just been going on recently?
You know, we didn't have you up. I apologize. We didn't have you up. Go ahead and start over.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me, Alex. And so basically what's going on now, what I was just writing about, is that this terrorist, well, supposed terrorist, also a quote-unquote former government agent, it was just reached a plea deal with the U.S. government, which is going to do a lot of things. One of the most important of them is that it's going to be keeping all of his links to intelligence agencies, American and Pakistani, classified. So basically we're never really going to get to find out what happened here or what did happen.
And same thing with the Fort Hood shooter. Excuse me, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. But it's just really ridiculous. And the Indians are furious about it. The American press hasn't really given it too much coverage. Actually, almost nothing. The New York Times had one piece by a letter from India or something like that that alluded to his connections to the CIA. But, I mean, this is huge news, and it's really unfortunate that we're not going to get to know what happened. And just imagine the Indians, you know, some guys run around murdering hundreds of people, and suddenly they don't even get to know what happened. Could you imagine if that happened in America? If the foreign terrorists came and started shooting up one of our cities, and then one of their governments was shielding that person?
Well, that actually came out 2 weeks ago in the Associated Press. ACLU got the documents where the 9/11 Commission was ordered not to investigate the attacks by the White House. So, I mean, there's always a cover-up here, and it's always U.S., Israeli, and British intelligence every time running everything.
It is. It's just such a pattern that every time one of these things happens, you always have the government trying to hide things. And I mean, if there's nothing to hide, why are they acting so suspicious about it? It's just obvious that something strange is going on here.
Well, let's talk about this David Coleman Headley. And this is in the affidavit. This is in the news. U.S. intelligence agent.
Yeah, it started back in the late 90s. He got busted trafficking heroin. So the DEA convinced him that he should be a secret agent for them in Pakistan. So he went over there, and during the time that he was working for them, or close to it, he started training with a terrorist group in Pakistan called the Lashkar-e-Taiba, which is a well-known Pakistani intelligence-aided organization. I mean, it's no question. They helped found it. They helped operate it. And, you know, prominent Indians have been coming out and saying this. The top counterintelligence chief of the Indian Security Services has said it. The former Indian ambassador to Pakistan has said it. What's going on here is the government was in some capacity involved in this, and they had to have known about it at the very least, and there's probably more to it than that. And with this plea agreement that he just got, we're never going to get to know, unfortunately. So it's just a travesty what's going on here.
Well, what we know is he admits to running the key GPS operations, being in a leadership position, and then everybody else gets killed, and their bodies are full of PCP, LSD. I mean, we don't even know if this is supposedly the people. They could have had just some nuts separately who were hallucinating, and then black ops shoots some of the people, and that's what witnesses said they were seeing. The former head, well, at the time, the head of of anti-terror forces, he gets killed in the attacks. He was coming out saying that Western intelligence had infiltrated and was going to stage this attack. He was there to try to stop it. He got killed. A replay of John O'Neill back on 9/11, the FBI head of counterterrorism, being killed. And so this just goes on and on and on. But the motives here are certain factions in Pakistan that want the U.S. to come in, stage an attack against India as a pretext for U.S. forces to be brought into Pakistan.
Yep. And you know, like you said, Headley was crucial to this operation. Like you said, he gathered GPS coordinates for the team to land there. He was conducting surveillance, and he was key to this entire operation. And so now it comes out that he's a government agent, and just everything's going to be classified. So something incredibly suspicious is going on, and the people really need to start asking the government what is going on here. I mean, and the Indians, too, are just outraged that this could happen.
Well, let's go over
really
more of this guy's past and what type of government agent he was, and now they're talking about basically you're giving him a lower sentence or something, and that they're protecting him under national security.
Yeah, well, in his plea agreement, I mean, for this crime, obviously, he could have gotten the death sentence. And with this plea agreement, he might not even serve a life sentence in prison. So, I mean, this is clearly some kind of cover-up, some kind of protection going on for this guy. And the U.S. is actually bound by treaty to hand him over to Indian authorities. So we're actually not fulfilling our obligations in order to cover up the trail of this guy. And so some people have been saying that, you know, maybe they just made a huge mistake and their agent went totally rogue and out of control, and now they're trying to cover that up. But the thing is, we're not ever going to know because it's all classified now. So, you know, it would seem like if it was just an innocent mistake, there wouldn't be the whole brouhaha trying to cover it up. It would seem that they would just admit they made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes from time to time, and, you know, just come clean. But that's not what we're seeing at all, unfortunately.
And it's the same in every single case. I wish the terrorism was just small lone groups. That's a lot less scary than knowing the people running our government are manufacturing these attacks to start wars and take our freedoms.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, continue going over some of the other important facets of your detailed article.
Okay. Well, we have here the ambassador who served in Pakistan. His name is M.K. Badrakumar, and he points out that the LET is closely affiliated with the Pakistan Inter-Services Intelligence, their equivalent to the CIA, and it's basically impossible that this operation would have gone on without the knowledge of the Pakistani government. And the connections between the CIA and the ISI, the Pakistan's version of the CIA, are well known. They've been working with each other for a long time, funding each other, helping out with cross-intelligence. And so if the Pakistani government knew that this was going on, it's almost inconceivable that the U.S. government wouldn't have known what was going on. And, well, obviously they didn't tell the Indians that this was happening. And on top of that, there's been a few CIA moles who have been caught within the Indian security services. And so that's leading people to, a lot of Indian journalists have been accusing certain Indian officials of being involved in this as well. So whether they're rogue Indian agents or whether they're collaborating with other governments, whether it be Pakistan or the American governments, we don't know. But there's clearly a lot going on here that isn't being talked about and that needs to be investigated.
Well, right after this happened, we were able to get Hamid Gul on the radio show, the former head of Pakistani intelligence, and he said that this was purely a U.S.-Israeli Indian operation as a pretext to start invasions and drone attacks, and that did then indeed happen. So that might be a good radio interview for you to pull up and listen to for further research.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that, Alex. And a lot of Indian journalists have been saying that this was aided and abetted by the Indian intelligence services. Some have accused the Israeli intelligence services as well of involvement. And Pakistan's fingerprint is pretty much undeniable at this point. He was training with the LET. It's well known. It's admitted. And the LET is essentially a terrorist group that's run by the Pakistani government, with, of course, all of its links to the American government. So,
and then all these governments use these attacks as pretext to clamp down on their own populations.
Yeah, steal money, steal freedom. It's, oh, the terrorists are going to get you if you don't give up your rights and give up your money. And then what do we get? More terrorism. I mean, it can't be incompetence. This guy who got on the airplane, the underwear bomber, obviously he had help from some well-dressed man. How does he get on an airplane with a passport, without a passport?
And then the State Department admits after a month and a half of denying it, okay, a U.S. intelligence agency, unnamed, told us to help him get on the plane and give him a visa.
Yep.
And it's the same story. And it says it now with these militias. They had informants in there running the whole thing.
Yep. Radicalizing people, getting them to say stupid things accidentally, things that they don't mean. And, yeah, then going in and arresting them and playing the sound bites on the afternoon media so that everybody knows that they need to give up their rights and their freedom. It's